Our last example involves a rhombus, and it says DEFG is a rhombus, measure reflex angle, blah, blah, blah. Let me just talk to you guys about a rhombus real quick before we actually do the problem. A rhombus is a parallelogram. Okay, so it is a parallelogram, just like a square is a rectangle. All right? We all know that every square is also a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. Every rhombus is a parallelogram, but not every parallelogram is a rhombus. All right? So they're related in the same way that squares and rectangles are related. Parallelograms are like rectangles. Rhombi, which is the plural of rhombus, are like squares. All right? The only difference is a rhombus or parallelogram is going to be slanted. So where a rectangle or square has right angles, rhombus and parallelogram don't have to have right angles in them. All right? What's true about a parallelogram is opposite sides are equal. Rhombus, every side is equal. Just like a rectangle, opposite sides are equal, but a square, all four sides are equal. All right? Opposite angles are equal. Opposite angles are equal. So just like in a parallelogram, this angle equal that angle equal that angle, same thing in a rhombus. So that fact is the same for both. This one says consecutive angles are supplementary. This one also says consecutive angles are supplementary. So the fact that it's a parallelogram means we still have parallel lines cut by transversal. These angles add to 180, those angles add to 180 like that. Diagonals bisect. Diagonals bisect each other. Okay? Here diagonals are perpendicular bisectors. Okay, what that means is not only do they bisect each other, not only does this diagonal cut that diagonal in half so that this little piece equals that little piece and that little piece equals that little piece, but also we get 4 90-degree angles in the middle. Okay, if it's a rhombus, in which it tells us it's a rhombus, we get all 4 angles in the middle are right angles every single time. That doesn't happen in a parallelogram. Final one, the diagonals bisect angles. Okay, this doesn't do anything to the angles. Okay, bisects the diagonals bisect each other, but the diagonals bisect angles. What that means is that this diagonal here cuts this in half. So X and A are going to have the same measure. B and K are going to have the same measure. This angle and this angle have the same measure. This angle have the same measure. Right? So when you get information that something's a parallelogram, you have a whole list of stuff on your parallelogram sheet that's true. When you get something's a rhombus, you get that entire parallelogram sheet in addition to right angles in the middle, every side equal to each other, and these angles in each corner, the 2 pairs of angles in each corner are going to be equal. Those are equal, those are equal, those are equal, those are equal. In addition to this angle is equal to that angle, and this angle is equal to this angle. Right? So all the stuff that's true about a parallelogram is still true. You just got a bunch of extra stuff in addition to it. All right? And again, it's a very innocuous comment up here that doesn't seem like much. DEFG is a rhombus. Okay, it's just a very basic, if you count DEFG as a word, it's a 4-word sentence, period. That opens up about 20 things that are true about this thing. Just that 4-word sentence, everything about a rhombus is true. Now, let me just mention one other thing here, reflex angle. A reflex angle is an angle bigger than 180. So anytime they tell you reflex angle, that measure should be something bigger than 180. And you can see here, this is the reflex angle of 280. They typically give you a reflex angle in a rhombus problem in this book. They just do. So expect that. They could have given you anything. They could have told you what A equals. You know, they could, without the reflex angle, A is equal to 40. All right. 40. If they told you A was 40, that would be enough information to find the rest of the information. I mean, it just is. All right. But they told us a reflex angle, which is fine. They told me to find A, X, B, K, and C. They told me to find all the 5 letters here that haven't been established. So first off, if I have a whole circle, how many degrees is in a whole circle? 360, right? We've used 280 degrees of a full circle, and this is the rest of the circle, right? So can everybody agree that there's 80 degrees left over? Yeah. Right? And I know that A plus X has to equal 80 degrees. But I also know that A is equal to X because this is a rhombus and that DF bisects that angle, cuts it in half. So if A and X add up to 80 and they're equal to each other, what do they equal? 40. A equals 40, X equals 40. All right, there's A and X taken care of. Now I'll move on to B and K. If this angle here is 80, how big is this angle right here? Those will be consecutive angles, right? Consecutive. Let me just make sure we understand the words consecutive and opposite. When I say opposite, I mean go across diagonally, those are opposites, they're equal. When I say consecutive, I'm at one corner and I walk to the next corner. Those are consecutive. Consecutive add up to 180. So how big is this angle here? 100. So I know that B plus K has to be 100, right? I also know, since it's a rhombus, that EG is going to cut this whole angle in half, so I know that B has to equal K. So how big are B and K?
50.
B equals 50, K equals 50. How big is C? 90, right? Here's a couple ways of finding C. Number one, this is a rhombus, those are perpendicular bisectors. Perpendicular means intersecting at a right angle. That's the easiest way. Second easiest way, I know this is 40 and this is 50, right? 40 and 50 is 90. This is a triangle. That also has to be 90, right? 40, 50, 90 plus 90 makes 180. That's a straight line. 90 and 90 make 180. There you go. That's another way of doing it. Take your pick. All right. I like the perpendicular bisector way myself. Anytime you get these words, and ask you for one of these four angles, the answer is 90 every time. You start off there if you want. But again, that's all you have to do. You just apply the properties to figure out the answers, and know that words such as something as a rhombus, something as a parallelogram opens you up to a whole bunch of properties about that specific thing.